Hi there, it's Linda here. Thanks so much for joining me today as I play with this new die set from Cottage Cutz. It's called Tree Stump and Log, that's one, and then the one I've bought to go with it is the Forest Peakers Beaver and Dog. So I've been making these little signs lately. You can use exactly the same ideas for your cards, because my little signs are the same size as the standard American card front. And why I'm making them is, as a teacher, I like to give incentives to my students when they work hard during the day, and these little signs can be put up in their bedrooms, maybe blue tacked up to the wall or lent up against a bookshelf, or put on, lent on a little easel, and they can read the words of encouragement and hopefully be inspired and have their day a little bit brightened perhaps by the signs. So this first background today is being very quickly created with some Distress Oxide inks, and that's certainly one very quick way to get a nice colourful background. So they blend so easily, and within a few minutes your background's covered. I use Strathmore Bristol smooth cardstock, and it just blends so beautifully. Now I'm splattering on with a fine tipped paintbrush, splattering on some of the same Distress Oxide colours. The green is Lucky Clover, and the blue that I'm splattering on now is Broken China. So after I've splattered on a fair amount of these two colours, then I'm going to grab some white acrylic paint that I've had in my stash for a zillion years, and a blob of that mixed with some water, and that will give me some white paint splatters just to break up this background, add a bit of texture, a little bit of interest, rather than it just being very uniform, which it was. So splattering on. It is a bit thick, so I'm not getting great splatters at that point, so spray a little bit more, a couple more sprays, and then it tends to leave the brush a little more easily. I do want some larger splatters, so I start to pick up the block and flick them straight off the block, which is a little bit scary. Sometimes gets a little bit too large, but we get there. So these dies, everything is on the one die. There's not separate little pieces for ears and eyes and noses and feet and trees and leaves and so on. It's all together on the one die. So you can cut a little bit of cardboard to fit just the piece that you need to cut, or you can cut the whole lot, as you see I've done here, out of the colour that you want. Now obviously, because I'm doing a beaver and a dog today, I've chosen browns, and I cut them from a couple of different browns that I think will go together, and that pretty much gave me everything I needed for the beaver and the dog. I just had to cut another belly for the beaver. So just starting to stick things together here now. This is the dog I'm starting with first. You add the colour around the outside of his belly to get that effect, and then he's got a beautiful little shaggy face, so I'm just adding his little jowls, and then I've given him some black enamel dots for eyes, and I've coloured in with a black Nico pen his little nose, and now I've just stuck him behind the tree stump, and I'm adding his little paws, so it looks like he's sort of holding on to the tree stump, popping his little head out over the top. It's a really cute little image, and I really wanted to increase my signs for boys, ones that might appeal more to the boys, because as I've said before, it comes very easily to me to make pretty little girly signs and cards, but the masculine ones are a lot harder. So aiming these more in colours and images that might appeal to the boys. So this is the largest wood frame die in the Hero Arts set, and I'm just cutting a background that's going to fit it perfectly, and then I'll cut down this piece that I've ink blended on. I'll cut that down and add it onto the white layer for the background. Then it's just a matter of adding the frame and layering up the little dog and the stump and working out where my sentiment is going to go. So this is my sentiment. It's from an MFT set. You get the banner die and the banner stamps all together, and it says "You're amazing," and I'm using the Altenew ink there, the chocolate, yes, dark chocolate crisp ink. So I do have to press down fairly hard in the center to get a good impression, and I do stamp it again. And then I have die cut from a scrap piece here. Sorry, my phone is going off. I've die cut from a scrap piece, and then I can lay that over the top, lay the die in, and then hold that in place with some blue tape and run it through the die cutting machine, and you end up cutting your little banner precisely where you want it, which is a great little trick. And once my banner is cut out, it's just a matter of adhering it all together, putting all the bits and pieces together for my little sign. I'm going to use these little outline clouds from the new MFT set. It's so sweet they are. And I'm going to add the larger one on one side and the smaller one on the other. Add them with some liquid adhesive. Do the same with the banner. The little doggy in the tree stump is popped up with the foam dots that you see over on the right hand side there. And then it's a matter of adding the little green leaves to the twig hanging off the side of the tree stump, and the little dog is complete. Now in the same little Cottage Cutz set, there's a sweet little beaver. So I've just used a tiny little scrap of white cardstock to cut his little beaver teeth, and I'm dropping them a million times trying to get them in position there on this little jowly part of his face. Finally managed to get them in place and stick them there. I need to cut that little tummy bit again because I want it to be that colour, and I used that one on the dog, so just cutting it from that colour again, adding the dark brown around the outside so it looks like he's got this little light brown tummy, and his little head is just about done. I've got to add little inserts into the middle of his ears, and I'll do the glossy accents for his eyes. I did try just a black pen at first for his eyes, but it just didn't look right, so I went over that with the black glossy, or the black enamel dots I should say. So just adding some liquid glue to the top of the beaver where he's going to stick to the log, or the tree stump I should say, then adding his little paws, like it looks like he's hanging on to the top, and then it's a matter of putting some glue on the back of his tail as well. I did put a bit too much glue here, and a little bit of white remnant is left in the picture I can see from where I tried to wipe it up with a tissue, but these things happen sometimes, don't they? So just adding the tail, and as I said, I did use black pen first of all for his eyes, but they didn't look dimensional enough, so I held the black enamel dot or glossy accents. What is that stuff called? Let me check. Okay, let's get it right this time. It's called Black Enamel Accents. That's from Ranger. So I did do his eyes with those, or that, and then I added his little black nose. So this is the background now for the beaver, and I wanted to use the alcohol ink, so I'm adding some of the blending solution down through the center of my Yupo paper. I've got 4 colors that I am blotting on. First of all, the 2 greens. I've got citrus and then botanical, and I'm using my rubber blower, the air blower, to move the ink around. And because I've got the blending solution down first, it moves really easily. In fact, it wants to keep moving and moving from where I want it to stay. It was at this point I actually wanted to get my heat gun, but my husband had gone to bed and his our bedroom is right beside my craft room, so I kind of thought, I won't do that to him. So I kept blowing it with the little rubber air blower until it was pretty much dry. So then I know it's going to stay there. So now I'm adding the 2 blue colours for the sky, and they are Pool and Cloudy Blue. And they do look fairly similar, but they're not. Cloudy Blue is a lot lighter, and you can see there now it's showing up which, you know, areas have got the cloudy blue on it. It's just a lot more subdued and a lot more subtle than the eye-catching Pool. So this is more of the cloudy blue. And again, just moving it around with the air blower until it's pretty much dry, because I didn't want to make too much noise with my heat gun. And I'm really happy with the way that background turned out. It does look really good, I might even say so myself. And then I've just cut it down so that it'll fit on a white frame that's cut to the same size as my green Hero Arts wood frame there. And I'm adding the clouds now from the inserts from the die cuts that I cut before, the little MFT set, so I can stick those in position. I've done a sentiment using an old MFT set, and I stamped that in Ranger Archival ink in jet black a couple of times, maybe 4 times even, to get it dark enough. But that archival ink is good for Yupo paper and good for using over alcohol inks, they say. And there's my little beaver friend all finished, and he's a sweet little fellow, I must say. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed my 2 signs. Remember, you can use any of these ideas on your cards, and I look forward to being back with you again soon.